Good evening. I call to order the March 18, 2021 special public joint meeting of the Cincinnati Board of Education. We welcome everyone and ask that you please silence your cell phones and electronic devices. Ms. Bates, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Yes, I'd be happy to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Treasurer Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Present.
Mrs. Bowers?
Here.
Ms. Bolton?
Present.
Mr. Messer?
Present.
President Jones?
Here. Thank you. Okay, so welcome to everyone. You all were able to join us today for this very special occasion. It is indeed an honor to have with us Senator Bill Blessing, who is going to update us today on legislative activities. But at this point, I am going to ask the chairperson of the Finance Committee to welcome the folks who have joined us for this Zoom meeting and to introduce Senator Blessing and give us an overview, if you don't mind, Ms. Bolton, of this meeting and how it came to be and what we hope to gain from this.
Thank you, Madam President. Very glad to, very honored to do so as chair of the Finance Committee for the school board and also welcoming my chair of the Health and Safety Committee for the board, Melanie Bates. It was determined that we would need to have, as best we could, a joint meeting of those two board committees in order to be able to hear from Senator Blessing regarding the status of items that we are particularly interested in, and also some items that I think he and only he can inform us about. So we look forward to speaking with him and learning more about where we are in Columbus and also what we can do to help him help us in Columbus. We also have with us, as has been mentioned, not only the Honorable Senator Blessing, but also we have our two government liaisons, George Glover and also Senator Eric Kearney, to help us through this. Also in the administration, unfortunately, our superintendent is recovering and is on medical leave and will not join us, but sends her best. And thanks, Mr. Blessing, Senator Blessing, for being here. And we have our treasurer, Jennifer Wagner, who will also have a number of questions, as well as our general counsel. But again, it's a joint meeting of the Finance Committee and the Health and Safety Committee. I don't know if my fellow chairperson, Melanie Bates, will say a few words eventually, and I know she will also ask many questions as well. Other board members we have are member Pamela Bowers and also member Ryan Messer, as well as obviously our president. So without further ado, I don't know, I'd like to turn it over to Melanie, and then Melanie, if you want to have Eric or George introduce the senator, or if you want to, we will remind the senator we do have some interested press people joining us, as often that they do, and we are Zooming in the district this meeting, and people look forward to your efforts and support. I should also mention that our Deputy Superintendent, Tiana Amat, is also here in the stead of our superintendent. And I've missed too many people. We'll find a way in the next few minutes or the next session to make sure everybody is acknowledged properly. Chairman Bates?
Yes, thank you. And welcome, everybody. Thank you so much, Senator Blessing, for joining us this afternoon. And I I'm also looking forward to an update legislative, and I did not catch the governor's 2 o'clock Thursday address that he typically makes. Did he make that address today? Does anybody know? I just haven't turned on the TVs.
Yes,
Yeah,
he updated.
Yeah, if we could get a little bit of an update on his address as well, especially if there are changes, that would be greatly appreciated. But I'm very much looking forward to this conversation, and it's just awesome that Senator Blessing is here taking a great interest in our district and so willing to listen and share information with us.
Madam President,
Yes.
I just want to take a brief moment and also thank Senator Blessing for taking the time to be with us today. I think by way of background, we should all be familiar with the fact that he sits on the Senate Primary and Secondary Education Committee, of which he is Vice Chairman, and also sits on the Senate Finance Committee, and was just reelected to his state Senate seat this past fall for another 4-year term. So with that background, Eric, I don't know if there's anything else you might want to add.
Well, I would just like to join the chorus of people who thank Senator Blessing for taking the time to be here today. I would just say, in terms of the Senate body, what makes Senator Blessing unique is he's an engineer and he's very process oriented, and he wants to make sure that things are done the right way. And so we greatly appreciate his thoughtful approach to the legislative process and to his service in the Ohio Senate. So I think without further ado, please, Senator Blessing, share your thoughts.
Very good. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yeah. So, as you know, we started out with this process. You had last General Assembly, the Cupp-Patterson legislation, which stalled in the Senate, is now House Bill 1. I believe it's had hearing in Finance, and I think the overall plan is the House would like to roll that into the budget. Back in December, I had, sent out an email to a number of senators outlining some problems that I saw with the legislation. Now, I don't believe that those problems have been addressed, but I would say the two fundamental problems that I saw, three maybe. The first one was in their calculation of teacher salary, which is, what fundamentally drives their base cost, is they include federal, state, and local dollars. That's kind of a misnomer. Really, the state should be on the hook for the state dollars, and the local dollars up to the local's obligation. Anything above that would be local enhancement dollars, and certainly the federal dollars are the federal dollars. So that sort of inflates the cost of the Cupp-Patterson plan. The other issue is the use of fiscal year 18 teacher salary data. The question is, when is that going to be updated? As soon as it is updated, that's going to be a cost driver as well. So, the current cost of that plan is $2 billion over that 6-year phase-in, which takes us into fiscal year 28, which is when they would want to do the next update. Now, an added problem in this is that, as many of you know, looking at the property valuations for this past tax year, property values have exploded. So any levy going forward, renewal or otherwise, is going to bring in a significant number of local dollars. In addition to that, the feds, through various bills, have been putting a lot of money into school districts nationwide. So it's reasonable to assume that when teacher salaries are updated, there's going to be significant inflation there. So the costs are significant. And for perspective, the amount of the amount of state dollars we spend on foundation funding in Ohio is about $11 billion. So a $2 billion tag is very significant, although that is spread across 6 years. Not quite as high. That having been said, what they are trying to do is admirable. You look at the situation with the caps and the guarantees, and there are a number of school districts that are indeed on the caps and guarantees. If you'll excuse me one.
I think we were.
Sorry about that. No, there was some background noise there that I wanted to take care of. But getting back to it, you have the caps and the guarantees. That was one of the large gripes, as well as where does the formula amount come from? Which, as you know, the formula amount is the $6,020 figure. So that is what Cupp-Patterson plan sought to fix. Now you go through that, they have their at a very high level, their system where they come up with a base cost, which is composed of your teacher base cost, your building administration base cost, student support, district administration, and that is offset by the local capacity amount to determine how much the locals are going to get from the state. And that is actually a fairly radical departure from what is being done currently with our current school funding formula. Now, the Senate plan, we are still working this out, so I will keep this at a very, very high level. But needless to say, we will be working within the context of the current formula. Coming up with a base cost for that formula amount. I can't say what that number will come out to be, but that's part of it. There's obviously going to be an update process, which is sort of in House Bill 1 as well, but it would be more frequent for what we're doing. That's important to have in place. We're looking at, reworking the state share index. For those of you, well, I'm sure, most are familiar here, but the state share index, along with the formula amount, is the largest driver of where the state dollars go. We're looking at reworking the state share index and how it relates to the opportunity grant. And then, of course, we're looking at the caps and the guarantees. I think the highest I could go with that is that the caps will be raised. There are some other various changes that we're looking at with respect to direct funding of scholarships, as well as community schools and STEM schools. But again, we're still trying to smooth out some of the edges on that. It's very high level, but at the end of the day, it's fairly simple from a conceptual standpoint. And I guess I can leave it at that without going into too much more depth and try to answer any questions. But again, trying to keep it at a higher level, before we unveil this in the coming weeks.
Okay, do board members or staff have questions regarding that particular subject with Senator Blessing? Yes, Ms. Wagner.
Hi, thank you so much for the update. Can you talk about timing? Because we're getting ready to head into our May forecast, and we're in the midst of building budgets now. As you can imagine, budget building is pretty crazy right now because of everything that's happening, trying to get kids back in classrooms. And so if we could figure out the timing of when the Senate plan would be revealed or what might be going into action.
I would simply say soon. It's tough to put an exact date on it. And I know it would be certainly helpful for you to know by May 4th, but at the end of the day, you're going to know all of this by July 1. So obviously not May 4th, but it's going to be known very soon how all this shakes out. I would say this, with what I've seen thus far, our plan, I believe school districts will like.
So the biggest difference in the May forecast would be the pass-through funding, right? Because the revenues would disappear, and so would the tuition expense. So that would have an impact on that, and the rest I think would be helpful. It looks promising. Revising the base value. I'm really interested in what the state share index would look like, and raising the cap would help us a lot since we lost money over the last 3 years because of the cap. So that would be helpful to help fund our growth. So super. So if there's anything I can do to help support, I'd be happy to do that.
Yep, I'll take you up on that.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Okay, we'll continue. Senator Blessing. Are there other topics, subjects, or things, and I'm asking the board for this, questions of interest to direct to Senator Blessing? Ms. Bolton.
Yes, appreciate it. And I'm not altogether sure that there isn't a current answer, but I know that there's been some movement and discussion regarding transportation costs and subsidies and management, and whether or not we're able to continue to use in some way, shape, or form for what grades our metro part. As you probably know, Senator, it's a huge operational cost for us, as well as a huge logistical cost, providing not only transportation for our own students, but for all of the students, whether they're going to CPS or whether they're going to parochial or charter or private. And I know there's been some legislative movement about that kind of coordination, and maybe the county education service centers somehow helping to mediate or what have you. Perhaps if you could talk a little bit. I know our transportation director has testified a few times. So just if that's a topic that you have some familiarity with, it'd be great to hear from you.
I do, and it's in the context of the formula, so I'd rather not go into that as much right now.
Okay. You mean the formula, the foundation formula?
Right.
It'll figure into that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's news. Sort of, I guess, at least to me, but I mean, that's interesting. It is a very difficult nut for us to crack. And I guess in our operations, it's the largest nut to crack. And then you add the COVID connection as well, where you're talking about the health and safety and the distance and what have you. So just if you will carry with you the idea that we are very concerned. I know Eric and George are very well aware of our concerns regarding transportation. Okay, that's at least news about the foundation formula. Appreciate it.
Okay.
I would, I guess I could add, we do have, Senate Bill 111 working its way through the General Assembly. I'm a sponsor of that, and that's going to, reappropriate for fiscal year 21 a lot of the leftover ESSER 1, ESSER 2 dollars to the local school districts. All told, the package is about $1 billion worth of money into education. There's gear dollars in there as well. Timeline on that should be relatively quick. But again, I don't know what the exact date is because the Senate will be out for for lack of a better way to put it, spring break in early April, and as well as the House. So, but I would have to think it would be in the next week or two that we get that done.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Okay, Treasurer Wagner.
Yeah, so a question about what you just said about Senate Bill 111. You said reappropriate. We haven't started spending ESSER 2 yet. In ESSER 1, we haven't been, the last submission for a cash request reimbursement has been delayed because of like a short-term appropriation issue. Is that what you're referring to?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, sorry. So what you just said about Senate Bill 111, you talked about reappropriating the ESSER funds. So we haven't started spending ESSER 2 yet, and ESSER 1 is being held for reimbursement because of appropriation. So is that what you're referring to?
I misspoke. It wasn't reappropriating. We're just appropriating the remaining dollars for fiscal year 21. I apologize for that.
Okay, no, that was good. Thank you for clarifying.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Ms. Bowers, you had a question? You need to unmute.
Thank you. I had to find it. I'm on my phone. I was just wanting clarity to what Jen had asked, but I wanted to see, would that SR2, will it roll over for us to use? Do we have to use it this year, or can it roll over to next year? Jen, maybe Jen can help me with that.
Yeah, ESSER 2 doesn't have to be spent until September of 23. ESSER 3 we have until September 24.
Okay.
So the multi-year grants.
Okay, any other questions? Senator Blessing, can you comment or update us on the status of Senate Bill 89? I think that's the Ed Choice voucher program bill.
I can simply say this. I think there's a number of pushes at this point to do, and this is actually in House Bill 1, okay, to have direct funding of the Ed Choice scholarship, and it's something that we've been discussing as well, and what that looks like. As you can imagine, that's I know it's a significant expense to the school districts. The deducting those dollars from the school district and sending them elsewhere is a problem, but at the same time it's an expense to the state to totally take that on as well. But for what it's worth, that is something that is being discussed in the context of the budget.
Okay. And what about House Bill 126? That's okay. I'm looking at my notes here, just trying to clarify my own notes. Jen, what?
Yeah, that House Bill 126 is where they challenge the property tax values, and then it wants the board to have to do a resolution to respond.
Okay.
That would be hugely cumbersome for this district.
We'll see how that bill makes its way through the General Assembly. But this has been introduced a number of General Assemblies. I think the last two, maybe three. I think it's just two. This has gone through, and it usually passes a chamber and then doesn't go anywhere in lame duck. I've gone back and forth with this. I know there's a number of folks that like it, but at the same time, it really, especially for it just it can cause a lot of problems from a paperwork standpoint and just dealing with some of the bureaucracy. I will just say this, I'd be surprised if that passed the General Assembly.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Glover.
Senator Blessing, I've read, as I'm sure you have, that looking at potential sources of funding to help financially support House Bill 1, or if you will, the old House Bill 305, one source seems to be the differential, the positive differential between what the OMB is recommending in terms of their financial forecast versus what the LOC is recommending for their financial forecast. And that positive differential could be a potential source funding school reform. Just curious kind of what your thoughts are on that.
I would submit that we'll probably end up going with the more conservative of the estimates. So I don't know that you can really rely on those dollars for education or anything for that matter.
If I could, a quick follow-up.
Yep, go ahead.
Do you see the rainy day fund being used in any context for this purpose as well?
No, I do not actually. That's something that I understand frustrates a lot of people, but one of the things that doesn't seem to be discussed a lot with the rainy day fund is that it impacts our bond rating at the state level and how much it costs to borrow money. So you would have thought that out of anything, with our issues with the pandemic, that would have been the time to draw it down. But again, having the problem of increased borrowing costs was a major issue. So that's the reason why that's not drawn down, or at least one of the reasons.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. I believe I saw Mr. Hoying's hand. Mr. Hoying, are you there?
Hello, friends, and good to see you, Senator Blessing. I was just going to make a quick comment for what it's worth on the various efforts that have been made. This, I think, was in, again, relating to the additional sort of technical requirements that boards of education would have to do to challenge property valuations. I think it was in House Bill 75 in the 133rd General Assembly, and then was it House Bill 126 this year that got taken up again? That's it. So just our perspective, I think, on that. I think given that local property taxes are so important to the school district, it's also important that I think tax property valuations are accurate. I think there are probably some jurisdictions around the state where school districts and maybe other municipalities kind of take advantage of that ability to challenge and file complaints after complaint after complaint every time there's an increase in valuation, a new complaint is filed. That certainly has not been our approach in Cincinnati and Southwest Ohio. When we see a sale that's gone through that seems to us to warrant an increase in the valuation, we do get involved, and it feels like sometimes that legislation is just like essentially putting another step in the process. It seems like it would be an easy thing to have the board pass a resolution each and every time they put that we initiated a complaint. But it tends to be something that I think the property owner would use as sort of a technical way to get out of what really is the proper valuation of that property. So putting that kind of an additional roadblock, it's not that it's impossible. It just it doesn't feel like that it's intended to really get proper property valuations, as opposed to giving a new defense to property owners, some kind of a technical defense. Well, you didn't pass a resolution, and so even though this property is worth X amount, that valuation complaint. That's how it feels, I think, from our side. So I don't think we've ever been in a position of kind of taking advantage of our ability to file complaints. There's also been legislation I know introduced that would take away the ability of school districts to file complaints, and we certainly would oppose that as well. That's just, I think, from our side. It feels like a roadblock, not necessarily something that's trying to improve the accuracy of those valuations. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I totally understand where you're coming from on that, and I think that's one of the reasons why it hasn't moved in the past couple of general assemblies. I think if anything, you would encourage more to be done locally in this. In fact, maybe I'm off base. I thought at one point the Supreme Court ruled that you couldn't put caps on the amount that you raise locally for school districts because of for that reason you want them to do more locally. So I like I said, I think that's one of the reasons why it has not passed. I think a lot of members recognize your concerns and have taken that to heart.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, comments?
Madam Chair, may I jump in?
Yes,
Yeah.
you may.
Yes, Senator, could you talk a little bit about broadband legislation? That's something that the CPS board has talked about a great deal, and the need for expanding broadband.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. That was something that should have been done last General Assembly. It is going to be done this General Assembly. The number escapes me, but we had just dealt with that recently, Senate side. So that's going to get done. Don't worry about that.
Okay. Senator Blessing, I believe Ms. Bates had mentioned maybe the possibility, if you can do that, update us on the update that the governor made today at his 2:00. Is there anything from there that we should need to know for those of us who weren't able to listen in?
So just so you know, I usually have Thursdays as my day where I take all of my meetings, given that we have session and committee on Tuesday and Wednesday. So I missed what was said at 2:00, but if somebody could fill me in on that, I might be able to give them my thoughts.
Okay. Did anybody present at this meeting listen to it, Ms. Bolton?
I only heard a little bit of it, and the part that I heard, he was at Melanie Bates's favorite university. He was at Xavier today. So that was great to see that he was in our town. All I heard really was the actually good news, and the number of counties that are in red was going down, and the number of counties that were in yellow were going up. I didn't hear any relaxing of anything, except he did say, and that doesn't mean he didn't say it. I just may not have heard it. He did talk in terms of the target number that they're looking for. And he did also suggest not only are things doing well in the retirement homes, but he also did talk in terms of they were way ahead in Ohio in the vaccination piece, fortunately. And he felt that was improving greatly. So that was all good news, but I didn't hear any relaxation, although he did say something about a target number that they were looking for. We still are in the red, unfortunately. But what I heard was pretty upbeat, but worried about the variants because apparently they are quite beginning to be much more prevalent in Ohio, and particularly in, I think he said, Indiana and West Virginia. So that was of great concern to him.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Bolton. Ms. Bates?
Yeah, and I had read on CNN today that the CDC is maybe announcing very soon that a 3-foot social distancing in schools may be adequately safe. So that's going to help us a great deal and help move some of the fear in public opinion. What are we up at about 13% of our population now vaccinated. Cincinnati Children's they haven't begun recruiting, but they're in the study now. I forget which vaccination it is. I think it's Moderna, and they'll be offering the test study to children from 6 months to 12 years, I believe, or 16 years. 16 and over can get it. And from what I understand in other states, that's been very, very popular, that parents have been seeking out these studies to make sure that their children are vaccinated. So these are all good, good movement towards a safe reopening of schools. And I just wanted to reassure the senator that, that Cincinnati Public, along with the other larger districts, we just don't move as fast as some of these smaller districts are able to, but we have been working very, very hard to a safe reopening, and we're doing it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Bolton?
Yes, just a follow-up on that. Our colleagues around the state, I think when we do, especially comparing the urbans versus us having to compare ourselves with our incredibly strong suburban districts here in Hamilton County, of the urbans, with the exception maybe of Mansfield, Senator, I can't remember which one. I think we, as little as we have unfortunately been in person, I think among all of the urbans, we've been the most in person of the urbans, to the credit of our superintendent. I'd also like to go back to the broadband thing. I think that, Eric, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because we are very proud, and I'm sure that Senator, you will be too, or are, when we actually had to start talking about this COVID thing last spring and figure out what to do. There was no way that we could be remote and it be equitable, because not only did we have something like 35% of our children didn't necessarily have the take-home instruments that or at their homes, but many of them lived in neighborhoods where the private sector and the public sector had refused to invest in Wi-Fi. And so literally, and I'm very proud of this, and you will be too, that we then had to subsidize that, not only ourselves, but Cincinnati Bell and others had to take on that lead. So we really do appreciate if indeed that's going to change as we go through, because nobody's ever going to return to only in person. That's been the big lesson. So the help that you all can give us regarding that access, that will move us light years ahead and give everybody so many more options, because many of our families have enjoyed the remote offering, and it'd be great for them to have that choice. So that's wonderful news that you just told us.
Yep. Thank you, Ms. Bolton. Okay, other questions from our members? Or maybe we can turn the tide a little bit. Senator, hold on, before we turn the tide, Mr. Kearney, did you have a question or comment?
If I could, Senator, so CPS is out of the urban 8. It's the only one that's growing. It's the only one that has these innovative programs. The one example is Euler. Every school district in the state is trying to copy it. And the third thing is, CPS offers choice in terms of academics. So you can get any kind of education you want, essentially, by picking the type of high school or 7 through 12 that you want to. And that's unique inside the state of Ohio. So my question is, do you think that that message is getting through to your colleagues, that we are being recognized for our growth, our innovation, and the types of education we're offering to children?
Yes. And before you respond to that, Senator Blessing, if we can add on to that, and actually, I was hoping maybe Mr. Messer, if either any other board members, to give Senator Blessing sort of an update on our vision for the upcoming year and maybe some of the activities around that. And I think that parallels well with what Mr. Kearney is saying, and important to share that with Senator Blessing. Anybody want to get that update?
What plans specifically, Carolyn? Can you hear me?
Mr. Messer, yes, go ahead.
Well, my question was, what specifically were you referring to about the activities in the coming year?
Well, I was just thinking of maybe just a broad scope comment based on what Mr. Kearney just said about us, our growth and us being the largest, where we're headed. It would be nice to share with Senator Blessing kind of where we're going. And as Ms. Bolton said, as we look toward the future, we're not just talking about a traditional sort of school setting. And so I was hoping that maybe you could comment further on kind of our recent planning and activities around how we move forward with our new vision for CPS.
Got it. Okay. Well, Senator Blessing, nice to meet you. I don't believe we've met before. I'm a proud father of 2 of our CPS kids and have another one coming soon. And I'm the junior member of the board by comparison to my colleagues on the phone here. But, I think I joined a ship that was moving quickly in a very positive direction. And I think it's important to know, there has been a build to the success over many years, and we have some dedicated board members who have made that happen so that, kind of when I joined board is when the superintendent took on, and it's like everything then just went to the next level. I think her leadership has been second to none. I say all the time, I think she could be a Secretary of Education at some point. But, we're thinking outside the box for how we're approaching education. And if we exit COVID like we entered it, obviously we didn't maximize this opportunity. Some things we're looking at is reassessing. Maybe we don't have to go build new buildings. Maybe we have second shift schools to support those families that are working second shift. And so maybe they would spend time with their kids reading if they were actually home with their kids when they weren't working. And really we're doubling down in our career tech. We had some really great progress to date, but some of the things that we're talking about is now taking the jobs outlook, specifically for Southwest Ohio, some of which are, or many of which I should say, are healthcare related. As you may know, we have a School for the Creative and Performing Arts, which is nationally known as the only K-12 performing arts school. The thought is perhaps we have a school for the life sciences that would prepare the next generation of any member of a hospital or healthcare environment, up to and including the person that will solve the next cancer or the next pandemic. As it relates to SCPA, we just had one of the stars from the Coming to America 2 that came right from SCPA. And for us, it was kind of not a big deal. What should they do? That's what they do. CPS prepares kids for that. But nationally, that was a story. It came from a Cincinnati public school kid. I think there's the exercise we went through was kind of the from to. It was a very creative way that we said, what's the old world? And what do we want to leave behind? What are the things that we want to do differently? Another of the items that we're looking at is rather than having a district that is as big as ours, 65 schools-ish, kind of that 63, I guess, but what would that look like if you created comparable offerings in 3 different sections? So you have an east, a central, and a west. You can have a little bit of local level governance. You could streamline the transportation expense. And I think given the world we just came from, you could really manage each based on prevalence of a pandemic or any number of other things that may come up. So those are maybe just a few things. I don't know if my colleagues want to add to that, but there's a whole output from a board planning session recently that I'm not saying this just because I'm on the board with the ladies here. I think it's a guide for what education nationally is going to look like. And hopefully people are seeing that Cincinnati Public Schools is thinking about that.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Messer. And just to kind of capture that in a quick summary, I think, we certainly recognize in this district that we're moving into a whole new environment as a result of COVID. And it's, I want to say like damn COVID, and not curse word damn, but you know what I'm saying? It's like it has taught us many things. And we believe that moving into a more non-traditional approach to education is where we want to be. And so we've started that. We're looking forward to moving as much into providing many more acceptable options for our families than traditional settings. And so, we're excited about that. We're excited. So, any other, Ms. Bolton, follow-up comments?
Yes, just very quickly, and I think everybody's done a great job of summarizing some of it, but we all read a couple of months ago something one of your colleagues said, Senator Blessing, Peggy Lanner, who said, we should treat COVID like a tornado or a hurricane went through, and you go back and you try to rebuild, but she said, don't build what you had, build anew. And I think I think our superintendent has taken that to heart. And just as I think our preschool initiative has been remarkable and the community learning center initiative has been remarkable, I think you, having attended a meeting yesterday, get ready for a tremendous, exciting initiative out of CPS on career ed. And we're really going to be looking hard at that and already putting in place home campuses and then installing as well dual enrollment for our kids to maybe not have to go to one particular school within our district, but following up on what Carolyn and everybody said about choice. That choice exists, and Eric has said it, that choice exists within the district, but you're going to be very, as I know you're very supportive of career tech, you're going to be really, really excited about the career tech initiative coming out of CPS. It's remarkable already. We've been building quietly, but now we're about ready to shout it from the rooftops. So that's one of the areas. And Ryan spoke to that regarding the health careers. And we have 5 different schools that are featuring the health careers, and maybe that's more than a beginning. So watch the career tech piece.
Yeah, that's great to hear that. I wanted to back up a little bit, and you had mentioned Euler. That is one of those things that we are trying to work on at the state level, sort of replicating that model throughout the state. And as you can probably imagine, Commissioner Driehaus has reached out about that more than once, and we're working with Darlene Kamine on that particular issue. I don't know what the timeline is for that, but the things that you guys have done down there have been simply amazing, and it is definitely worthy of replicating across the state.
Great. Okay. Any other topics of concern or questions for Senator Blessing? Or Senator Blessing, do you have questions of us? Anything of interest specifically? Beyond
No,
what we've already shared, yeah.
no, you guys are doing what you can in the midst of a pandemic. I mean, I keep up the good work, and if you need any help from me, I'm certainly available, and look forward to sitting down with you guys in person. Hopefully sooner than later. It'd be nice to just get a little bit of normality back.
Yes, agreed. Okay, so this brings us to sort of the next item on the agenda, which is assignments. And I don't know if we have any assignments or anything of that next steps or anything of that nature. I agree with Senator Blessing. Let's do this sooner rather than later. So I'll open that up if there are any next steps or assignments from board members or staff or Senator Blessing. Ms. Bates? Ms. Bates?
Yes, Senator Bless, is there a way we can help you in supporting some of this legislation that's favorable to Cincinnati Public and really the districts in our area? If you need testimony, if you need a resolution, anything like that, please let us know, and we will work with you on that.
Sure, but for what it's worth, it's entirely up to you guys. I mean, there's always been a substantial number of board members, superintendents, folks like that who have come in and testified. So that's entirely up to you guys. I mean, you know what bills are, or presumably know what bills are going through the General Assembly. So, I just encourage people to, submit testimony and, let the chips fall where they may.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Any other next steps? Okay. So I'll take the opportunity on behalf of the board, Senator Blessing, to thank you for allowing us to sit down with you again. We always feel that it's important to stay close to what's happening in the state, of course, as you just mentioned, and to have you give your time is so appreciated. And we look forward to doing it soon, as you said, sooner than later. So thank you so much.
More than welcome. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you. Board, is there anything else before we adjourn? Okay. So having.
We'll see you after spring break.
Yeah, have a good one.
Okay. Having no further items for the agenda, I declare the meeting adjourned.
Go Taft.
Yay!